Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. This episode I've been trying to make for a long time. It's a subject that I've had in my notes for a while to do a video on, and every morning I wake up, the SNP give me more material than I can cope with. So I'm eventually getting round to it today because I've got a wee spare 10 minutes to video it and a wee spare hour to get the edit together. And what it is, it's the, I don't even know if it's a word, the Gaelicification of our road signs, police cars and ambulances, you know, putting Gaelic translations on these things. And I don't have a clue why, or I didn't have a clue why, so it's just not frustrated me. It doesn't annoy me, I just look at it and think, what's the point? Anyway, I started having to, I look about to try and figure out why we started doing this, because, over the sort of last 15, 20 years, it started creeping in more and more. So I found a report by Transport Scotland back in the day when they first started doing this, and their justification, I don't know, it seems in the face of it quite reasonable. And what they were saying was, where the most of the Gaels are and the people that speak Gaelic are up sort of Western Isles, they wanted to have the road signs to allow these people travelling to, for example, the West Coast ferry ports to get to the islands, being able to read the road signs. And I thought, all right, well, why? Can I not read English? So I then started looking at who benefits from these road signs, if anybody. And it turns out that approximately 1% of the Scottish population speak Gaelic at all. And that would equate to, let's err on the favourable side for our Gaelic speakers. And let's say that number's 60,000. Okay? Now that's 60,000, I actually know quite a few of them. And it's just through friendships born through watching my favourite football team. And I have a fair support from, up the Western Isles. And I've met a few of these people who speak Gaelic. And I think it's fantastic. However, they're Gaelic speakers, but I'm dead easy to be able to converse with them dead easy. Do you know why? They're right good at speaking English. Because English in, modern days is their first language. So it's a second language to these people. So that got me thinking, these guys, that I know when they're travelling back up to go home, and they don't get to a road sign when they're looking for a ferry port and have to stop their car and scratch their head because they can't figure it out before we started putting the Gaelic translations on it. That was never a problem with them. Do you know why? They can perfectly read English. Perfectly well. And I'm struggling to find out how many, if any at all, of our Gaelic speakers cannot read, write or speak English. I think the number might be zero. I'm prepared to put a bet on it's closer to zero than 60,000 that speak it, right? I'm prepared to bet that if it's not zero, it'll not be a figure far off zero of people who can speak Gaelic but can't speak English or can't read a road sign. The ones that get me the most are the police cars and the ambulances. Because, see, if you could not speak or read a word of English, and the only language you could read, write or speak was Gaelic, and a police car with big flashing blue lights was behind you, and a big sign saying police in front of you, I kind of think you'd figure out who that was. You know that? I'm quite sure that you would be able to know that that's a police car. And likewise, if you're at the scene of an accident and you were waiting to get, you were injured and you're waiting to get medical treatment, and an ambulance drove up without saying ambulance in Gaelic, I'm quite sure you'd know that's an ambulance. And the funniest thing about that is, it's the translation of the word police is police. And the translation for the word ambulance looks awful like ambulance to me. Now, see if we'd done the opposite, and up in the Northwest Isles, we put only Gaelic stuff on police cars and ambulances, and we didn't have the English translation, I'd know what was what. Do you know how? Because it looks the exact same. I'd be able to work it out. So likewise, this very, very small, if anybody at all, who speaks Gaelic, that couldn't speak English, they'd know what a police car and ambulance is without any help at all. Believe me. These people, I know them. I know some of them. They're no daft. Right? They're actually quite intelligent people. They'd work it out. I wouldn't at all suggest banning Gaelic in any form. People want to learn it, that's great. People want to talk about it in their house. That's fantastic. But what I do question is, what positive does it have in modern society? What does it bring to the table? Does it have any economical benefit? Is it a social benefit? Is there any cultural benefit? Because I can't see it. Now, I might be daft. I'm quite willing to accept that I might not have all the answers on this one. I might not have all the answers in any topic, to be perfectly frank with you. But I can't figure it out where this need for this language. I am not suggesting we should be banned. It's already been banned, by the way. And see the SNP cult, tree-hugging, Braveheart-loving mob. See that? The crackpot ones. They would have you believe it's some conspiracy of England to quash the natives up here. The language was first banned by the last king of an independent Scotland. That guy. Mary Queen of Scots' son. Her. You know her that the Braveheart lovers quite like. Those people. He banned it. Amongst other things. He tried to take over. I think it was some of the Shetland Islands. At one point, they didn't quite like the way they were living their life. So this isn't your imperious colonial England that's got anything to do with this whatsoever. This goes further back than that. And don't let them kid you on that it was somehow later on in history that saw us first try and stop people talking the language. And also, and again, it's taught at schools. Fantastic. I know people who send their children and grandchildren to the Gaelic school in Glasgow. Got a very, very good name for itself. Apparently a very, very good building to educate young adults. I'm all for that. And if we were to offer Gaelic to every high school age child, along with offering them French and German and Spanish and all these other languages, one, I'd love to know what the uptake would be if it was, on the whole curriculum. But more so, I'd love to know what benefit it would have in society for the economy and all these things, Would it, for example, be more beneficial for a teenager to learn Gaelic than it would French, German or Spanish? Would it enhance their employability going forward? Would it enhance their experiences travelling the world and possibly wanting to work abroad, etc.? I kind of doubt it. Right? I think there's far more important languages to learn as a second language, if that's the way this is going. And I watched this thing, a video, it wasn't a new video, but I only seen it yesterday on Twitter, and it was about this Scottish Government's mother tongue thing, and it showed you these people making their oath in Parliament, and some of them were doing it in sign language. There was a woman doing it in Welsh, there was one doing it in Gaelic, there was one doing it in, what do you call that one up in Aberdeen? Just the North Aberdeen call. That's terrible, I was going to say Nordic. I'll come back to me. There was a guy, Robertson done it in German. The crackpot South African green woman done it in some Zimbabwean language, which I couldn't figure out because she's South African. There was a woman done it in Urdu. She was brilliant. She didn't need any notes like the rest of the crackpots. These ones are talking about my mother tongue. They had to read it out of notes. This wee woman, no, she wasn't Urdu. I do beg your pardon to anybody of Indian descent. She was Indian. What language would that be? That's terrible. But all the other crackpots, most of them were reading off of notes. This Indian woman, she was brilliant. It was a nice sort of theatrical feel to it. So, do we need to change the road signs for all these people? Because I'm quite sure that there'll be more, let's say Indians for example, even in Glasgow alone, there'll be people in Indian households, maybe first generation, and grannies and stuff like that, that don't speak a word of English. There's probably more Urdu speakers in India, whatever Indian language, so too beg your pardon for having that out of my head now. But a lot of these people probably cannot speak English. Whereas out of the 60,000 that speak Gaelic, I wonder how many cannot speak English. So then where do we stop? Do you know what I mean? Do we put down Polish and Ukrainian and, other languages I've already mentioned and, whatever else? Romanian? All these, do we need to put all them in billboards now? Because I tell you what, see if that's the case, see the entry bit when you start crossing the Erskine Bridge, the sign would need to be bigger than the bloody bridge. It is potty. It is absolute madness. Now, in the last 3 years alone, and this is a bit, see if we just said, right, we're not doing Gaelic anymore. Not doing it. Right, let's say it was bad. I'm not suggesting it should be, but let's just hypothetically consider it was. What negative impact would that have in society? I would suggest it would have hee-haw of a negative. I can't think any positives of trying to force it on others. And likewise, I can't see any negatives of stopping it, right? Which makes me beggar belief to the next question. It makes me a bit concerned. The last 3 years, the Scottish Government has spent £117 million on Gaelic projects. And I'm quite sure it'd be nice to go to a wee Ceilidh for the Gaelic speakers and stuff like that. It'd be cracking fun, that. But what is the point? What's the benefits and what's the negatives if we don't do these things? I don't think it matters either way. So we're just doing them for the sake of doing them. We're doing them just for the sake of having tartanised something else that doesn't need tartanised, And all these crackpots that think Braveheart movies actually a manifesto. Them. That mob. I bet folk that actually speak Gaelic, you're less bothered about it than the crackpots that don't. Because most, in fact, I'm trying to think, I can think of 4 people I know that can speak that language. And every single one of them, I'm quite sure, I'm happy to say, are unionists. So see the crackpots that are pushing this, it's probably not even them. It's crackpots that think somehow it makes us more Scottish. How dare you take our language away? The buggered ninnies speak. How dare you do that? Nobody's trying to take your language away. You're all barking mad, right? And it's just another thing to tartanise something that's actually tartan enough. The people I know that speak that language are some of the proudest Scottish people I know, full stop. If they didn't speak Gaelic, they'd still be as proud, right? So, what's it all about? I have no idea. It's complete and utter not. Don't stop the language, right? Don't do it. If there's any benefits in teaching it to people, stick it in the national curriculum, right? But I don't think there is. But going to stop this nonsense. See the next time, I'm not saying go out and change every road sign back to just English, right? Because that would be a contradiction in my part, because I think it was a waste of money doing it in the first place, and spending that money twice isn't actually ideal. But see next time you're building a new road, like maybe the A9 when you eventually get it finished, or a sign blows down and you need to replace it, save yourself a bit of dough, make it half the size, just stick it in bloody English, yeah? Nobody will be that bothered. However, if you like this video, get a thumbs up, hit subscribe, all that stuff. But most importantly of all, have a great day. Cheery bye now.